Hello there. Welcome to the Truly Criminal Network. We are excited to have you here.
Is Bernicia Lightfoot. No sign of the 26-year-old. Police say her phone was found lying in a yard near 59th and Chester. Inside her apartment, a scary scene. Police say evidence shows someone was seriously hurt there. Lightfoot's family reached out to Bedford police on Tuesday asking for a welfare check. That's when they stopped by Colony Club Apartments on Turney Road. Lightfoot lives there with her boyfriend, 31-year-old Michael Roarty Nugent. Police naming him as a person of interest, but shortly finding out he is missing too. Police are unable to make contact with him, leaving police with many unanswered questions. Where is the young couple?
July 18th, 2023. A date that should have been filled with celebration, laughter, and joy for 26-year-old Bernicia Lightfoot. Instead, her phone went silent. No calls, no texts, no social media posts, nothing but absence on the very day she was meant to celebrate her life. When concerned family members couldn't reach her, they knew something was wrong. Bernicia wasn't the type to disappear, especially not on her birthday. What police discovered at her Colony Club apartment in Bedford, Ohio, would transform a missing persons case into something far more disturbing. Dried blood stains marking the walls and floor, bullet holes puncturing the drywall, signs of struggle everywhere. 3 days later, Bernicia's body was found wrapped in material and discarded in a wooded area of Cleveland's Slavic Village neighborhood, a brutal end to what should have been a milestone celebration. From the moment she turned 18, Bernicia displayed remarkable determination. She began factory work alongside employees much older than herself, quickly earning respect for her punctuality and dedication. Her former trainer remembered her as someone who stood out for all the right reasons: hardworking, reliable, and compassionate. But Bernicia's ambitions extended beyond factory walls. She nurtured dreams of becoming a rapper, channeling her creativity and voice into music that expressed her multifaceted personality. Those who knew her talent spoke of her potential, of all she might have accomplished if given the chance to pursue her passion. Beyond her professional life and artistic aspirations, Bernicia dedicated herself to saving lives. As an active member of the Wolfpack Gunshot Response Team in Cleveland, she trained to provide critical first aid to gunshot victims before emergency services could arrive. She organized community barbecues for children, creating safe spaces in neighborhoods that desperately needed them. The profound irony haunts everyone who knew her. A woman who devoted herself to preventing gun violence ultimately lost her life to it. The same community she worked tirelessly to protect mourned her absence, grappling with the senseless violence that took her from them. Have you ever seen someone's social media and thought everything looked perfect, only to discover later they were suffering in silence? Drop a comment below sharing what you think are the most overlooked signals that someone might be in danger. Your insight could literally save a life. If you've ever wondered how someone could miss the signs of a dangerous relationship, hit that subscribe button right now and join me as we uncover Bernicia's heartbreaking story. Each subscription helps us spread awareness about domestic violence and potentially protect someone you know. How many birthdays go from celebration to tragedy? The statistics might shock you. Like this video if you believe we need more honest conversations about relationship violence in our communities. Share this video with 3 people you care about, not because it's entertaining, but because the lessons in Bernicia's story might be exactly what someone in your circle desperately needs to hear today. At just 18 years old, when many teenagers were still figuring out their paths, Bernicia Lightfoot was already punching the clock at a factory in Bedford. Think about that for a moment. While her peers were adjusting to college life or entry-level positions, Bernicia was navigating the demanding physical labor of factory work. The environment wasn't designed for someone her age. Her co-workers were significantly older, many with decades of experience. The hours were long, the work physically demanding, and the expectations high. Yet Bernicia never complained. She arrived early for shifts when others might call out. She mastered tasks that took others weeks to learn. She volunteered for overtime when production demands increased. This wasn't just a job to her, it was a demonstration of her character, her responsibility, her determination to create stability in her life, regardless of the obstacles placed before her. The factory floor became her proving ground, and she excelled there. Sansir Ali Shakur, who trained Bernacia, described her as exceptional among new hires. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave, Shakur recalled. Never made excuses, never blamed others when things went wrong. This reliability earned her respect across departments. Supervisors requested her by name for important projects. Co-workers sought her out as a partner on difficult tasks. When production quotas seemed impossible, Bernacia was the one who kept morale high, maintaining both efficiency and quality when pressure mounted. Her work family recognized something special in her, an unwavering commitment that transcended her youth and inexperience. After clocking out from long factory shifts, Bernacia didn't retreat home to recover. Instead, she devoted her limited free time to the Wolfpack Gunshot Response Team in Cleveland. This grassroots organization trained community members to provide emergency first aid to gunshot victims in neighborhoods where ambulance response times often meant the difference between life and death. Bernacia learned to apply pressure to wounds, create makeshift tourniquets, and keep victims conscious until professionals arrived. Beyond emergency response, she organized neighborhood barbecues for children, creating safe spaces in communities plagued by violence. Her commitment wasn't occasional volunteering, it was regular, passionate service to protect the vulnerable in her community. When Bernacia stepped into the recording booth, she transformed. Factory worker and community volunteer gave way to artist and storyteller. Music wasn't just a hobby for her, it was oxygen, necessary and vital. Friends described her flow as authentic, her lyrics honest windows into both personal struggles and aspirations. She wrote about resilience, about overcoming obstacles, about lifting others as you climb. Her verses weren't filled with materialistic dreams, but community transformation, how success meant bringing others along with you. She saved carefully for studio time, recording whenever she could afford it. She performed at small local venues, building a modest but dedicated following. Her SoundCloud tracks gained traction in Cleveland's underground scene. She wasn't chasing fame, one friend explained. She was chasing impact. She believed music could change minds, open hearts, create bridges between people. The mic was her tool for truth-telling, for processing pain, for imagining better futures, both personal and collective. The profound contradiction of Bernacia's story haunts everyone who knew her. A woman who spent her days creating, building, and protecting was ultimately destroyed by violence she couldn't escape. She saved for studio time, while someone plotted to silence her voice forever. She trained to stop bleeding while her own blood would stain her apartment walls. She created safe spaces for neighborhood children while living in a home that became increasingly dangerous. Her outward-focused compassion never fully extended to self-protection. The woman who did everything right for others couldn't escape what was terribly wrong in her own life, a devastating paradox that makes her absence even more acute. Michael Rorty Nugent entered Bernacia's life like a storm cloud obscuring sunshine. Unlike Bernacia's transparent ambitions and community connections, Rorty Nugent carried shadows in his past that should have signaled danger from the beginning. He grew up in an environment where conflict resolution through aggression was normalized. Former acquaintances described him as quick-tempered, unpredictable, and possessive in relationships. His social circle consisted largely of individuals with similar behavioral patterns, men who viewed control as a form of affection and intimidation as strength. Employment was sporadic at best for Rorty Nugent. Jobs rarely lasted more than a few months, creating financial instability that Bernacia often compensated for. This economic imbalance became another lever of power in their relationship, one he exploited repeatedly. The contrast between them was stark. She built while he destroyed. She saved while he spent. She connected while he isolated. She healed while he harmed. Rorty Nugent's criminal record reads like a textbook progression of escalating violence. His first arrest came at 19 for possession of controlled substances. By 21, he faced charges for illegal weapon possession. At 23, his first domestic violence charge appeared after an altercation with a previous girlfriend. Court documents reveal a pattern: charges followed by minimal consequences, probation violations met with second chances, restraining orders filed then dropped. The system repeatedly processed him without meaningful intervention or rehabilitation. Between ages 23 and 27, he accumulated multiple additional charges: assault, drug distribution, threatening behavior, and further domestic incidents. Most concerning were the domestic cases, which showed progressive intensification, from verbal abuse to property damage to physical harm. The justice system's revolving door allowed him to avoid significant jail time, despite these repeated offenses. Diversion programs were started, but never completed. Mandatory anger management classes were assigned, but poorly enforced. Opportunities for meaningful intervention evaporated with each dismissal. Brenacia's family witnessed disturbing behavior long before the ultimate violence. Her mother noted how Rory Nugent would call repeatedly when Brenacia visited family, demanding to know her whereabouts and who she was with. These calls often ended with Brenacia leaving earlier than planned. Her brother observed Rory Nugent's need to monopolize Brenacia's time, cutting her off from friends and redirecting her focus solely to him. Every time she tried to build something of her own, he found a way to interrupt it or dismiss it, he later told investigators. Her sister documented concerning changes in Brenacia's behavior, canceling studio sessions, making excuses for unexplained bruises, withdrawing from family gatherings. When confronted, Brenacia defended him, saying, "You don't understand him like I do." Despite their expressed concerns, Brenacia maintained the relationship, insisting she could handle the situation and that positive change was just around the corner. Her family watched helplessly as her independence steadily eroded. Their relationship operated on two distinct frequencies: public performance and private reality. In social settings, Rory Nugent presented himself as supportive of Brenacia's music, even taking credit for managing her career. He portrayed himself as her protector, her motivation, her biggest fan. Behind closed doors, a different pattern emerged. He criticized her lyrics, questioned her talent, and created scheduling conflicts that prevented studio time. He demanded access to her phone and social media accounts, monitoring her communications under the guise of looking out for industry predators. Financial control became another method of manipulation. He borrowed money from her savings for studio time. He created emergencies requiring her financial rescue. He questioned purchases that didn't benefit him directly. The relationship followed a predictable cycle: tension building, explosive incidents, hollow apologies, temporary peace. With each revolution of this cycle, Brenacia's independence diminished further. Her vibrant personality grew quieter, her boundaries weaker, her isolation more complete. The indicators of danger accumulated gradually. Physical changes came first. Brenacia began wearing long sleeves regardless of weather, canceled plans last minute, and limited her time in public. Behavioral shifts followed. She stopped recording music, withdrew from the Wolfpack team, and checked her phone anxiously when it buzzed. Her apartment told its own story: a broken mirror hastily replaced, a hole in the wall covered with a picture frame, unexplained damage to furniture. Friends who questioned these changes were removed from her circle. Co-workers who expressed concern were met with rehearsed explanations. Each signal, seen individually, might seem minor. Together, they painted a map leading directly toward tragedy. July 18, 2023, Brenacia's 26th birthday. Her family expected the usual flurry of celebratory photos, excited calls, and birthday plans. Instead, silence. No responses to texts. Calls went straight to voicemail. No social media updates. By midday, her mother's concern escalated to alarm. Brenacia never missed family check-ins, especially not on her birthday. Something was wrong. By evening, family members contacted her workplace. She hadn't shown up for her shift, another red flag. Brenacia had never missed work without notice. At 8:47 p.m., her family filed a missing persons report with Bedford police, emphasizing her reliable nature and explaining the significance of her absence on her birthday. By 10:30 p.m., officers were dispatched to her Colony Club apartment for a welfare check. initiating what would become an increasingly disturbing series of discoveries that transformed a missing persons case into a homicide investigation within 3 days. Officers arrived at Bernice's apartment expecting potential explanations for her silence. Perhaps she was ill, her phone battery had died, or she'd taken an unexpected trip. What they found instead changed everything. The apartment door showed signs of forced entry. Inside, the living room contained clear evidence of violence, dried blood stains on the carpet and splattered across one wall. Further inspection revealed bullet holes in the drywall. A lamp lay shattered on the floor. The coffee table was overturned. In the bedroom, investigators documented more blood on the mattress and sheets. The bathroom mirror was cracked. Items from the medicine cabinet were scattered across the floor. Most disturbing was what they didn't find, any indication of Bernice's current location. Her car remained in the parking lot. Her purse sat on the kitchen counter, wallet inside. The only thing missing appeared to be Bernice herself and her cell phone. On July 19th, a resident in a neighborhood approximately 10 miles from Bernice's apartment discovered a smashed phone in his yard while mowing. Thinking it abandoned trash, he initially tossed it aside, then reconsidered and called police. Officers quickly identified it as Bernice's device through her still visible lock screen photo. The phone's condition suggested deliberate damage. Not just dropped, but forcefully destroyed. The screen was shattered. The case cracked open. Digital forensics revealed the phone had been powered off around 11:30 p.m. on July 17th, the night before her birthday, and approximately 24 hours before her family reported her missing. 3 days after she went silent, a maintenance worker clearing brush in a wooded section of Cleveland's Slavic village made the discovery everyone feared. Partially concealed beneath branches and debris lay Bernice's body, wrapped in what appeared to be a bedsheet and plastic. The location wasn't random. The area was isolated, rarely visited, and dense with vegetation that provided natural concealment. It represented deliberate selection for body disposal, suggesting premeditation rather than panic. Medical examiners later determined Bernice had died from multiple gunshot wounds, consistent with the bullet holes found in her apartment. The timing of death was estimated between 11 p.m. and midnight on July 17th, aligning precisely with when her phone went dark. The condition of her body revealed other disturbing details. Defensive wounds on her hands and arms indicated she had fought desperately for her life before succumbing to her injuries. As investigators canvassed Bernice's apartment complex, crucial witness testimony emerged. A neighbor returning from a late shift reported hearing an argument from Bernice's unit around 11:15 p.m. on July 17th, followed by what sounded like gunshots. Approximately 30 minutes later, the same neighbor observed a man matching Rory Nugent's description, struggling to carry a large wrapped bundle down the apartment's back stairwell. The witness described the man as sweating profusely and looking around nervously before loading what appeared to be a human-sized package into the trunk of a car. Another resident corroborated this account, adding that the man made 3 trips between the apartment and vehicle. First with the large bundle, then with 2 garbage bags. This witness also noted blood visible on the man's clothing. A third witness reported seeing the same vehicle parked briefly near where the phone was later discovered, with the driver exiting only momentarily before speeding away. This case demonstrates why silence can be deadly. If you're watching someone's relationship deteriorate into control and isolation, speaking up isn't being nosy. It's potentially saving a life. If this video is helping you identify concerning patterns in relationships around you, please hit that like button now. Share this with someone who needs this information. Maybe it's your sister whose boyfriend monitors her texts. Maybe it's your coworker who keeps falling or bumping into things. Maybe it's your friend who's slowly disappearing from your life. Comment below with one action you'll take this week to check on someone you're worried about. Following the discovery of Bernice's body, law enforcement mobilized a coordinated team response. Crime scene technicians processed both the apartment and the wooded area where she was found, documenting over 200 pieces of physical evidence. Blood pattern analysts mapped the apartment scene, determining that multiple shots had been fired in the living room. Residue tests indicated the weapon had been discharged at close range. The bullet fragments recovered matched a caliber consistent with a firearm Rory Nugent had been photographed with on social media months earlier. Investigators secured Brenacia's digital footprint. Her laptop revealed searches for how to safely leave abusive relationship in the week before her death. Her bank records showed a $2,000 withdrawal 2 days prior, suggesting she may have been planning to escape. Most tellingly, officers recovered trash bags from a dumpster near Rory Nugent's friend's home, containing blood-stained clothing and cleaning supplies with Brenacia's DNA, establishing a direct connection between the apartment crime scene and his subsequent actions. Technology proved crucial in building the case against Rory Nugent. Security cameras from Brenacia's apartment complex captured him entering her unit at 10:42 p.m. on July 17th. The footage showed him leaving multiple times between midnight and 1:30 a.m., carrying items matching witness descriptions. Gas station cameras recorded his vehicle at 2:17 a.m., where he purchased bleach, trash bags, and cleaning supplies. The store clerk remembered him because of blood visible on his shoes, a detail that became significant when those same shoes were later recovered from his closet with Brenacia's blood in the treads. Cell tower data positioned his phone near all key locations: Brenacia's apartment, the area where her phone was discarded, and the Slavic village location. His digital trail contradicted his initial claim of being at home asleep. Forensic testing of his car revealed Brenacia's blood in the trunk despite extensive cleaning efforts. DNA evidence under her fingernails matched Rory Nugent, confirming physical struggle before her death. On July 23rd, just 5 days after Brenacia was reported missing, prosecutors filed multiple charges against Michael Rory Nugent. Involuntary manslaughter in the first degree, acknowledging the killing occurred during an escalated domestic dispute. Tampering with evidence based on his extensive efforts to clean the crime scene, dispose of bloodied items, destroy Brenacia's phone, and conceal her body. Gross abuse of a corpse, reflecting the disrespectful treatment of Brenacia's remains after death. Prosecutors initially considered pursuing aggravated murder charges, but determined the evidence suggested an explosive incident rather than premeditated killing. This distinction affected the potential penalties Rory Nugent faced. Defense attorneys quickly sought bail, which was denied due to flight risk concerns and his extensive history of probation violations. The judge also noted the severity of the crime, and the defendant's pattern of escalating violence made him a continued danger to the community. After 3 months of legal proceedings, Rory Nugent accepted a plea agreement. On October 18, 2023, he stood before the court and pleaded guilty to all charges. The sentencing hearing on November 7th allowed Brenacia's family to address the court directly. Her mother spoke of birthdays that would never be celebrated, music that would never be recorded, and a life of promise violently cut short. Her brother described the haunting void left in their family, while her sister condemned the system that had repeatedly released Rory Nugent despite clear patterns of abuse. The judge delivered a sentence of 23 to 28.5 years in prison, the maximum allowable under the plea agreement. Additionally, the court mandated comprehensive domestic violence intervention programs during incarceration and imposed a lifetime restraining order protecting all members of Brenacia's family. Rory Nugent showed no visible emotion as officers led him from the courtroom. For Bedford residents and members of the Wolfpack gunshot response team, the sentencing brought complicated emotions. Relief mixed with anger that the system had failed to intervene earlier, despite numerous opportunities. The community responded by establishing the Brenacia Lightfoot Foundation, focused on supporting those attempting to leave dangerous relationships. Local domestic violence shelters reported increased calls following media coverage of the case, suggesting heightened awareness. Bedford police instituted new domestic violence response protocols, requiring officers to document all reported incidents regardless of victim cooperation and implementing mandatory follow-up visits. While justice was served, the community consensus remained clear. Brenacia's death was preventable, making the outcome bittersweet at best. The numbers tell a devastating story. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 3 women experiences physical violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. More critically, 72% of all murder-suicides involve an intimate partner. The progression typically follows a measurable pattern. Studies show that domestic homicide rarely occurs without previous incidents. In fact, 70% of domestic homicide victims experienced physical abuse before the fatal incident. Most alarming, when firearms are present in abusive homes, the risk of homicide increases by 500%. In Brenicia's case, each statistic became not just a number, but a missed opportunity to intervene before violence turned fatal. Abusive relationships function on psychological manipulation as much as physical threat. Perpetrators systematically isolate victims, creating dependency through 4 primary mechanisms. First, they establish control over basic resources: money, transportation, and housing security. Second, they sever support networks, family relationships, friendships, and community connections. Third, they implement surveillance, monitoring communications, tracking movements, and demanding constant accountability. Finally, they institute consequences, punishing independence through escalating aggression. This process happens gradually enough that victims often don't perceive the full danger until deeply entangled. The relationship becomes a psychological trap, where leaving appears more dangerous than staying, a perception abusers deliberately cultivate and reinforce. Multiple opportunities for intervention existed in the months before Brenicia's death. Rory Nugent's extensive criminal record provided clear documentation of escalating violence, yet probation monitoring remained minimal. Previous domestic violence calls should have triggered enhanced police attention to the household. Instead, each incident was treated as isolated rather than part of a dangerous pattern. Coordinated information sharing between courts, law enforcement, and social services might have identified Brenicia's as high risk. This communication breakdown meant that while individual agencies had pieces of information, no one assembled the complete picture until it was too late. These gaps represent not just bureaucratic oversight, but literal life and death missed opportunities. Certain behavioral patterns strongly indicate relationship danger. Isolation tactics, where a partner restricts victim contact with friends and family, often appear first. Communications monitoring follows, with demands to share passwords or excessive checking of devices. Financial control, restricting access to money or creating economic dependence, establishes further vulnerability. Physical indicators include unexplained injuries, especially on the neck, face, or arms. Personality changes in the victim, including anxiety, depression, and withdrawal from normal activities, serve as social indicators. Frequent absences from work or social events often coincide with visible injuries. Understanding these patterns means recognizing them not as relationship problems, but as precursors to potential homicide. Effective community response requires both informal and formal safety networks. Neighbors who recognize and report sounds of violence, employers who notice attendance patterns and injuries, and friends who maintain contact despite a victim's withdrawal can create crucial safety monitoring. The Wolfpack Gunshot Response Team exemplifies community action. Regular presence and programming in vulnerable neighborhoods establishes relationships that facilitate intervention before violence escalates. Law enforcement requires structural reforms to address domestic violence effectively. Specialized training for officers improves evidence collection and victim interaction. Dedicated domestic violence units ensure cases receive appropriate attention and follow-up. Most promising are lethality assessment protocols, where officers use evidence-based screening questions to identify high-risk situations. These assessments connect victims with immediate services when danger levels are highest. Mandatory arrests for domestic violence calls, regardless of victim cooperation, remove the burden of pressing charges from those experiencing trauma and intimidation. Combined with no-contact orders, these policies create breathing room for safety planning. If you or someone you know faces relationship danger, immediate resources exist. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233, provides 24/7 crisis support, safety planning, and local referrals. Local domestic violence shelters offer emergency housing, legal advocacy, and counseling services without requiring police reports. Court advocates can help navigate restraining orders and legal protections, regardless of immigration status or financial resources. Brenacia's story matters beyond its tragedy. If hearing her experience moved you, transform that emotion into action. Leave a comment below sharing one concrete step you'll take to address domestic violence in your community. Subscribe to support continued awareness about relationship violence patterns and prevention strategies. Share this video with 3 people, not for views or likes, but because education literally saves lives. Someone watching right now knows a person in danger. Your share might be the information they need to recognize the situation and take action before it's too late.